everyone. This is Empowering Homeschool Conversations. We want families to come here to gain insightful strategies that empower them to successfully teach diverse learners at home. This broadcast is hosted by me, Peggy Floyer, founder and CEO of M.Ed Homeschool. Our goal is that these powerful weekly conversations will boost your confidence to cultivate the best at-home learning environment for your student. For more homeschool resources, go to spedhomeschool.com. Today, we're going to learn how to incorporate VR technology into the homeschooling environment with special guest Kathleen Ouellette. I just encourage you to share this broadcast with other viewers if they might be interested in our conversation, and also to put your comments and questions in the feed. We would like you to be part of this conversation. Welcome, Kathleen. I'm so excited to have you here as a guest today on Empowering Homeschool Conversations.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. So Kathleen and I met a while ago. We had a very interesting chat, and I had never conceived of virtual reality being part of a homeschooling environment, and she broadened my mind greatly. And I said, we're going to be talking about technology in October, and we've got to fit you in. So that's how Kathleen got here. But Kathleen, as people are popping on to the show and they're sharing it with other friends who might be interested in just this metaverse, this virtual world that we are starting to hear about. How can we grasp onto this new technology and bring it into homeschooling? I would just like for you to introduce us to yourself and to your family. Talk a little bit about your background in homeschooling, and then we're going to dive a little bit into your background after that with this new platform and technology.
Sure. Well, thank you. Hello, everybody out there. Yeah, I am a 30-year teacher, a little bit over actually. And that is my strong background in this area. And I love education. I always have. My grandmother was an educator. My mom was an educator. My stepfather was an educator as well.
Wow.
And very strong background in that field. And I'm a Navy wife. My husband's retired. He was on board aircraft carriers for quite some time. And so I was home with our 6 children. And I found that it was much easier to homeschool. Although I was a public education teacher, but when I had my own kids, and we were living in an area that was a really nice area, but the school that we were attached to didn't meet my standards. So I homeschooled. You dive in, you go into the unknown, and you leap first and ask questions later. And that's how I found myself homeschooling for 14 years. But I have my background is in deaf education. So I am a deaf education specialist, and also have a reading specialty, and I'm certified in birth to 3 and then K through adult. And I have taught in public, private, charter, state schools, and homeschool.
Yeah. That's a lot of teaching and education background. And so are you done homeschooling now? You've graduated all your students, or are you still working on some?
I have one more who is at a private school right now. So you need to do what appeals to and what's best for each of your children. They're not all the same. They don't all need the same things. They don't all respond the same way to the same innovations of thought that others do. And every single one of them is unique and special. So, she is thriving at a private school right now, and very grateful that it's Christian based. And which was the design in our move here, was to allow her the opportunity to be at a private Christian based school. So
That's awesome. It's amazing how our kids navigate, like everything in our lives. People asked us how we got to our church this week, and it's like, well, it was because of the youth group, and our daughter needed that. So your life is
Yeah.
dictated a lot of times by what your kids need, and so I know that's part of your VR, story is that you kind of moved into this not being ready, and it was a necessity of something needed, maybe not by your own children, but by other children. So
Yeah.
can you tell a little bit of that story as to how you kinda got involved in this platform? And, was it because you were super techie?
My kids my kids will tell you, I am was probably one of the least tech savvy people they knew. Um, Although in this technologically savvy world, that, isn't saying that I was that illiterate. I did know how
Hmm,
to use Word. I
yeah.
knew how to answer a phone and take a picture. So,
Mhm.
um, and I am a photographer as well. So I knew how to
Yeah.
use Lightroom. So that kind of
Okay.
technology, yes, familiar with.
Mhm.
But as far as anything beyond that, like the metaverse,
Right.
didn't even know what that was. Um, Honestly, I didn't know the impact that it was gonna have. I
Mm.
truly thought that the metaverse, when it was first introduced to me, the concept, I truly thought that it was for gaming only,
Mm.
and that it had no place in education.
Hmm.
Um, but I thought, "Wow, what a waste,"
Hmm.
because wouldn't it be cool if kids
Right.
could utilize that kind of platform to, like, go into different places and
Mhm.
when I got to thinking about the whole gaming aspect of the metaverse and got to thinking about, oh wow, kids can go to these faraway places, kids can learn
Mhm.
about these different environments, they can socially interact with others in
Right.
new, fun, and engaging ways. But
Mm.
do they always have to kill each other? Do they
Right.
always have to, like, seriously, does it have to be so violent all the time?
Mm.
Couldn't it
Mhm.
be used for educational purposes? And
Right.
then I was, through a mutual friend, through networking,
Mm.
met someone who knows my boss
Hmm.
and got me in touch with Victory XR. And a job came up. I
Hmm.
applied. I didn't get the job.
Hmm.
But in his response to me, um, he said he was so kind,
Hmm.
and he truly is a very kind individual,
Hmm.
and very thoughtful, and um, that is what attracted me to coming on board with the company as well, is that
Hmm.
this is like an environment that I would like to call home, because
Hmm.
he's technologically savvy. He's, an ed into ed tech, and that's really what I was
Mhm.
interested in. Didn't know how to apply it, but I interviewed with him, did not get the job, but he,
Hmm.
in his response, said, "I would really love for you to have a conversation with you about your background and something else I'm thinking about."
Hmm.
Um, and so we had another conversation, and it was
Mhm.
about homeschooling.
Hmm.
And he shared with me at that time that he was on the Iowa House Education Committee
Hmm.
and Iowa State,
Mhm.
and that he or had been in his past,
Mhm.
and he had written a bill that was very significant for homeschoolers, for
Hmm.
parents actually,
Mhm.
to have the right to have a say in their
Hmm.
child's education. And
Yeah.
so he's a huge proponent of education. He's a huge
Hmm.
proponent of um, of homeschooling.
Hmm.
He's a huge proponent of he's a huge proponent of education because his parents were also educators.
Right.
So, we had that connection, and it's very easy to talk to. He's a great
Hmm.
individual. And it just blossomed from there. And the company that he he hand selects the people that he hires
Hmm.
and is very hands-on about it. And that creates a very harmonious environment. You get to work with a
Hmm.
lot of people that are just there. I mean, everybody in the company
Hmm.
has a very significant role, and we all are working together to
Hmm.
bring about a change in education that we know is available and is going to make an impact on future learners.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You always want that. It's so much more, right, like you're talking about. It's so much more than just the platform, the company that
Mhm.
stands behind it, and when those values and that quality, they'll shine through in everything that they do.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if you're listening, and you that I know we have one viewer. She's Tara said, we're working with Victory XR. They're amazing. And I also want to put up your website. For those of you that are listening on the podcast, it's victoryxr.com. And yeah, we'll share some more information at the end too about some homeschool possibilities of using this their program. So yeah, but yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit, pointed more about the struggling learner and this technology specifically, since that's kind of what we focus on with our show. Um, and so I would love to just have you explain just how VR, what it is, and how it's different or similar to other tech that is used in the education realm right now.
Yeah. Well, I would say that um, it's really not like anything else that's used in the
Mm.
education realm right except that it is the closest thing that you can come to experiential learning in the
Mm.
pedagogy of like Reggio Emilia or experiential project-based learning
Okay.
platform pedagogies. That
Mhm.
is probably the closest that you're going to come to, but those also don't incorporate the technology that the
Mm.
metaverse
Mhm.
offers.
Right.
And um, that is where the magic really is in the technology that the metaverse brings to this platform.
Mm.
You can go anywhere. You can explore different places. You can travel. You
Mm.
can meet new people
Hmm.
without ever having to realistically leave your home.
Right.
And for a lot of people, especially those with mobility issues
Mhm.
or that are immunocompromised in today's day and age, or
Right.
that struggle with anxiety, social
Mhm.
anxieties. There are individuals out there that thrive in
Hmm.
these environments and welcome the
Hmm.
opportunity to be able to travel and experience and learn. But it doesn't
Right.
just apply to that population, it applies to
Mhm.
everybody because
Right.
it's very equitable. It's,
Hmm.
you can get on an airplane and go somewhere, but you
Yeah.
have to have the money to get on the airplane. You have to be able to
Mm.
afford, the hotel, the car,
Right.
transportation, whatever it is that you
Mhm.
need to be able to experience these different places. And nothing is going to replace that. Nothing is going
Yeah.
to be able to replace going and seeing the Arc de Triomphe yourself in person,
Hmm.
or being able to experience the Great Wall of China in
Yeah.
person.
Mhm.
But what if you can't get there?
Yeah.
What if you
Yeah.
financially can't get there
Mhm.
and you can't experience it? You can watch a
Mhm.
movie, you can watch a video, you
Right.
know, you
Mhm.
can see it on
That's
your
probably as
computer or watch
close
it on
as you're
your
gonna
phone.
get. Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
But being able to go into a 360 video
Mm.
inside one of our platform bubble in environments and
Mm.
experience those opportunities to see Antarctica up
Hmm.
close and personal, to be in a bubble and stand in a over a raft and have the penguins right next to you over on this side, and you've got seals over here, and you really do get chilly because you hear
Mm.
the wind going around you. You are surrounded,
Mm.
you are immersed
Right.
in your curiosity,
Hmm.
and that is what's so engaging about this platform and what's gotten
Hmm.
me so excited after 30 years of teaching.
Hmm.
I'm excited for students
Yeah.
to have the opportunity to experience this. I
Hmm.
really,
Mhm.
I value the importance and the impact of what this can bring and what this
Hmm.
means for students across the globe. Um, when you speak about students that are in Alaska and you
Mhm.
talk about, the ocean, and you talk about, okay, we're going to talk about, I don't know, we're going to talk about cactus, or we're going to talk about
Hmm.
octopus, or we're going to talk about, you can talk about various things, but they
Right.
don't have the relationship to those concepts and ideas other than in
Right.
a book or on a screen.
Mhm.
But to be able to take them to those environments and walk through them,
Right.
and not just in a 360 video, but actually in one of
Mm.
our environments,
Mhm.
then it means something else. It means
Right.
they can finally relate to what it
Mm.
is that they're being
Mhm.
asked to learn about. And
Right.
that is why students are so disengaged these days.
Mhm.
It's because they don't relate to it. If it's not important to
Right.
them, they don't want to hear about it. They don't
Mhm.
want anything to do with it. Why am I here? Why am I
Right.
in
Oh, yep.
school? Why are
Uh-huh.
you asking me to learn this? Why do
Yeah.
I have to do this? Well, their
Mhm.
why is not that curriculum piece that's written on the board. They
Yeah.
could care less what curricular it
Mhm.
aligns to. That's not
Right.
a why. That's a
Mm.
why the teacher is teaching it, but
Right.
that's not the
Yeah.
student's why.
Mhm.
And that's the
Exactly.
disengagement that we're facing right now, and that's what
Hmm.
I think education is facing right now, is
Yeah.
that disconnect between,
Mhm.
okay, this is the teacher why, and this is what the principal wants to see when he goes into a classroom and wants to see that objective written on that board.
Yeah.
Okay, there's the
Mhm.
purpose of
Yep.
why the teacher is teaching this, but does the student care?
Mm.
Does it
Right.
affect them?
Mm.
Does it
Yeah. They
impact them?
Right, they don't see that relationship, and we are so relational, and so that immersion, that interaction is so key to that learning environment, and like you said, curiosity, and
Mhm,
we we fail so often to pique curiosity because we don't have either, just the ability to engage that student long enough because we're adding so much content
yes.
into, and we fail to wait. But this is one way we can just dump them, really into that environment and make that engagement start almost instantly,
Mhm,
which
it
which
does.
is, it gets over those hurdles of trying to build that excitement, which I think we have to do a lot as educators, is we have to build excitement to to get that engagement, and here's
Mhm,
this technology that is doing that, um, as a
yeah.
just
You know,
instantly.
a lot of people are saying, that a lot of teachers are leaving the classroom, and rightfully
Mm.
so, and I see why. I hear why. I
Mm.
see their whys and I hear their whys. And I understand, and a lot of people are saying, oh, well, teachers are so great at sales.
Hmm.
Well, they are, because for years, all we had to do is sell what what we're trying to teach in the classroom to students.
Right.
And
That is
should
so
it be
true.
that way?
No.
You know,
Yeah.
no.
Mhm.
Students should be allowed to have curiosities and
Mhm.
build their inner curiosities, and then experience and explore those curiosities
Hmm.
on their own level, on their own terms.
Right.
And when you have teachers that are in the roles that they're currently having to do, not allowed the time, not
Hmm.
allowed the platforms, not allowed the technology, and being told that they have to do things this way. And if it
Mhm.
doesn't fit in with this way, then
Right.
you're at risk of losing your job. Well, rather than being at risk of losing their job, they're saying, well, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and I'll find something else to do that where they appreciate me, and they hear my voice is heard because
Mm.
I know how to teach and you're not listening to me. And
Yeah.
I think that's one of the disconnects too. I could get on a
Mhm.
soapbox about it,
Oh,
but I
yeah.
won't.
Well, we have a comment from a viewer, and I really want you to address this and whether or not you, what you think about it. Because I'm really trying to think of what I think about it. Melissa said, she's watching on Facebook. She said, children are very different today, and they have to have buy-in with their education. VR is the answer to this old school teaching techniques that are not going to work with children today. Um, Response.
Yeah. I do think VR is an answer to that because
Mm,
I do believe that VR can help students understand one, the why of
mhm.
why they're learning, what we're asking them to learn. Two,
Yeah.
allowing them the opportunity to have a voice and say in their own education and their own curiosities,
Mm,
and learning ways the way that they learn best. If you put
yeah.
a student into VR and you offer them all of the differentiated instruction
Mm,
techniques that are applied in virtual reality
mm,
automatically the minute you go in there and
right.
the minute the teacher brings in something. If you can bring in our platform, you can bring in a board and you can share a PowerPoint, you can share a video, you can share,
Mm,
but that's really not the purpose of VR. The purpose of VR is to have one, the flexibility to do
mm,
so, but two, the opportunity to experience and immerse in
mm,
what it is that you want to learn about.
yeah.
So, I guess the most relevant thing I could think of is I was a very unit oriented instructor.
Mm,
So,
mhm.
because I taught special ed and
Okay.
because
Mhm,
my students were, I worked in an inner city public school in Jacksonville, Florida, and I had in a self-contained classroom deaf education students,
mhm,
and it was the best. I had
mm,
13 students, and my students ranged in their abilities. I'm not going to
mhm,
say disabilities; they ranged in their abilities, and um, and I saw the value in each and every student, and I saw the
mm,
challenges that each and every student needed to overcome. And I had the time, because I was in
mhm.
a self-contained classroom, I had the time to work with them.
Yeah.
And there isn't a curriculum written for the deaf and hard of hearing. I'm going to tell you
Mm,
that right now.
wow.
So, as a special education teacher, I got to write my own. So I
Mm,
got to bring in what were the students curious about? Okay, well, and this is before I
yeah.
had children. So what are the students curious about? Let's
Mm,
see. We're going to talk about this month, we're going to do the rainforest. We lived in Jacksonville, Florida.
mm,
How am I going to get 13 kids in an inner city public school to
right.
learn anything about the rainforest and why it's important to them?
Mm, mhm,
So we dove in and the students helped me create the classroom as a rainforest. We transformed
mm,
it. We lived in a rainforest environment. We took
mm.
well, I got into trouble for taking too much bulletin board paper, but whatever. Bulletin board paper, and I twisted it, and I made these huge trees and these huge lianas,
Mm,
great vines, and I we made bromeliads, and we made I mean, the students
mm,
got into all the art and all the creative aspect of it, and then when they
yeah.
would learn about a different animal, they would either wanna draw it or they would wanna, explore it some
Mhm,
more, and so I immersed the kid in it that way. So we learned
mhm,
about, how the rainforest affects you, why it's
yeah.
important, what and all of that. We
Mm,
learned all about everything culturally,
mm,
environmentally, ecologically, everything. And
yeah.
it was awesome, and we read books about it. So when I say that I was very unit based, I really was
Mm,
very unit based. So we read books, we did math, we did science, we did social studies, we did history, we did
hmm,
like all of it was around
right.
the rainforest.
Yep.
So
Mhm,
when I went to homeschooling my own children, that was ingrained in me because that's how it
mhm,
served my students. Well,
right.
my children, I have 6 children in 9 years.
Wow.
So, yeah. So and my husband was deployed, so it was me.
Mm,
Um,
mhm,
I was deployed a majority of the time. And so I had the blessing of staying home with them. and nurturing their curiosities, nurturing
Right.
how they learned and how they wanted to learn. So
Mhm.
we read, what did we do? We read Carry On, Mr. Bowditch, and then we
Mhm.
would pretend we were on a ship, and I made the
Right.
basement into different
Oh, yeah. That
into
was my
different
house
things.
too. Yes.
I mean, a lot of homeschoolers can probably identify with this.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And because you can make it fun, right? You
Right.
can make those environments, you
Mhm.
can make it fun. Well,
Yeah.
what's the difference then in
Hmm.
VR? Is that
Right.
now you
My
can
house
use
can
the
stay clean. That's what's
technology and my house would stay clean. And I don't have to go to the expense of getting all the bulletin board paper and
Right, and the boxes and
wasting
yes, and
paper,
moving the furniture and yes.
and moving furniture around and, contending with dust bunnies or whatever. So, but I will say, I will say that so if how that applies to answer or to answer the question to support her
Mhm.
her statement,
Yeah.
if you are studying Carry On, Mr. Bowditch, if you're studying Lord of Thunder, Hear My Cry, great book. A
Mhm.
lot of
Yeah.
homeschoolers study it.
Yeah.
So, how are the kids going to understand and relate to that?
Right.
What
Yep.
it
Mhm.
they're not gonna get it. They're not
Yeah.
gonna really, really understand it. They're gonna appreciate it.
Mhm.
They're going to, because of the way that parents teach things, the way
Right.
that caring teaches things.
Mm.
They're going to understand it. They're going to be empathetic
Mhm.
about it.
Right.
However, are they really going to get it?
Yeah.
So you study the book. You read the book with your students. You have them read it. You,
Mhm.
for English, you take a paragraph out of the book and you dictate it to your students. And then
Mm.
and by students, I mean anybody. So I'm just using
Mhm.
like your own children or in a classroom situation.
Right.
Uh, you dictate it to your students. They have to write it. And then you look at it and you don't grade it, but you evaluate it. You
Mm.
appreciate their attempts at spelling. You appreciate their attempts at the
Mm.
grammar. You appreciate their attempts at the punctuations involved.
Mhm.
And then you gently just correct those. And then you give it back to them and you have them rewrite it.
Mm.
And so that's one way to integrate those two things. Well, then now,
Right.
not only that, but you can then bring it into VR. And you can go into one of our environments is La Amistad, which is a slave ship.
Mm.
And you can go on board La Amistad and you can hear, if you go below deck, you'll
Mm.
see the slaves in their confined quarters. You'll hear the rattling of
Mm.
the chains. You'll see and feel the impact because it is scaled.
Mm.
It is true to size. So you'll
Wow.
feel that impact that it has on you
Mhm.
and the physical awareness of everything involved of living in a confined space with
Mhm.
no place to go to the restroom,
Mm.
no opportunity to leave that space.
Right.
And then you go up above and you hear a woman speaking about contemplating ending her life with her
Mm.
small child in her arms.
Mm.
And because the journey is just so tragic.
Mm.
And then you bring that into the equation of that book. And you bring
Right.
it then you go on to the Pedicus Bridge, which is another environment that we offer
Mm.
about the civil rights movement. So you
Mm.
can take one piece of literature, add others to it, and
Mhm.
explore and expand and expound upon the learning that is offered by going into these different environments and helping
Right.
kids really relate.
Mhm.
And that's what we were saying was a disconnect, really relate to,
Mhm.
oh, wow, yeah, this
Right.
this is not okay. You know, this
Mhm.
this is not how I would want ever have my family and my history and my background treated in any way, shape, or form. And I'm
Right.
not saying that it's only, there there's all kinds of ways that you can utilize the metaverse to
Mhm.
enhance whatever it is that you're studying
Right.
and reinforce too.
Mhm.
So if you're studying the ocean and you've got
Mhm.
kids in Alaska that are curious about the ocean, but they live in
Right.
the middle of Alaska, they don't have any way of
Right.
learning about anything other, I mean,
Mhm.
like, seashells and if they're living in the middle of Alaska,
Mhm.
or if they're living in the middle of Siberia, or if they're
Mm.
living in there's
Right.
a difference of opinion as to what is relevant. But then
Yeah.
also, and what's important for them to learn, like why would they be learning about the ocean? Why would they,
Mm.
want to do that? Well, maybe they're curious,
Right.
and
Yeah.
if they just have a brief curiosity about it,
Hmm.
okay, let's have
Mhm.
a brief curiosity about it. Let's
Right.
dive in, explore it,
Mhm.
bring in a seal, bring in a penguin, bring in this. Let's, go on to Dinosaur Island and
Mm.
walk through it and just explore it. Let's act things out.
Right.
Let's interact with these objects.
Mm.
Just
Mhm.
that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And it gets that curiosity fed and nourished.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
then you can move on to what is probably or maybe more relevant for them or
Mhm.
necessary for them to learn about, which you can also do in the
Right.
metaverse. We have one of the platforms that we've just come out with, actually, one of the environments that we just came out with, sorry, not a platform, is a grid.
Hmm.
So if you want your students to understand graphing,
Hmm.
dive into a grid.
Hmm.
Go into the grid, bring in an asset, which are objects. We
Hmm.
have 2,000 assets available right now
Mhm.
that you can access. And so you can bring in a square and you can put it on this grid. But when I'm saying that, it's not like, oh, okay, it's just this grid on this big board. No, 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 no,
Hmm.
no. This
Hmm.
is a 1 meter scaled grid. It's on
Hmm.
the floor. It goes in both directions
Okay.
and then it goes up.
Ah. Uh-huh.
And looks like a big giant ladder that just goes way, way, way up.
Hmm.
But there's a button. You push that button and it expands that plane all the way down.
Hmm.
So now you have this graph that you can interact with in multiple
Hmm.
ways.
Wow.
Bring in a cube, bring in a rectangle. Let's talk pie
Hmm.
graphs.
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
talk, well, not pie graphs, sorry. Let's
Just
talk bar
the
graphs,
right.
right?
Mhm.
Let's
Yep.
talk XYZ coordinates. Let's talk graphing those coordinates. And then let's
Mhm.
bring in a bar and connect those,
Hmm.
or, oh, let's use a 3D pen, which we
Mhm.
have, that you can either do artwork with, you
Yeah.
can create an asset that you don't have, or
Mm.
you can use it to just really poignant things out that you want
Mhm.
to. Or
Wow.
the teacher can bring in a Post-it note. And it's like,
Hmm.
"Oh, well, what's so significant about a Post-it note?" Well, here's something.
Hmm.
You take your Post-it note, it's right on your wrist. The 3D pen, the Post-it
Huh.
note, the whiteboard, all of it is right on your wrist.
Hmm.
You just touch it and it brings it up and you can type in on a Post-it note and then you can stick that Post-it note wherever you want it to go in your
Hmm.
environment.
Wow.
So teachers can point out something, students can
Mm.
point out something. We become true facilitators for
Yeah.
their learning
Yeah.
rather
Hmm.
than, my friend Dr. Morris says that you become the guide on the side rather than the
Hmm.
sage on the stage.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's
Mhm.
really, really nourishing for the soul, isn't it? To know that
Mhm.
your kids' learning and your kids' curiosities are what's
Yeah.
driving them to
Mm.
explore things. And
Absolutely.
then you're
Yeah.
providing platforms for them to do that.
Mhm. Yeah, well, as you've been talking, I was thinking, too, when we engage that curiosity, because it takes a while to engage that because our students have not been engaged for so long in their own learning. But when you start to engage it, it's like getting that boulder rolling. And once it gets going, it's like they can take off with that and they start exploring and asking more questions and getting more involved. And so a lot of times it's just the process of getting started sometimes that is the biggest hurdle. And then just letting your students go because they find so much that can be answered
Yeah.
that other learning environments can't answer. That unless you're immersed. I mean, and that's the experience, I'm pulling from is that immersive, just taking my kids on trips and things. But like you said, it's so financially limiting. I mean, we would have loved to have, gone road schooling and traveled the whole time. It's just not practical.
Yeah.
So being
Yeah.
able to bring those environments to you really solves that problem.
And if you have students with special needs, sometimes the practicality of it is
Yeah.
even more, you know,
Mhm.
it can be even more challenging. Um,
Right. Yeah.
so
So can you talk a little bit
yeah.
about how VR does remove some of those barriers? And then, of course, limitations too, as far as, like mobility with hands. I mean, how much
Mhm.
mobility do you need to use this technology? Is it pretty minimal?
Well, the technology can be accessed on a computer. So that is
Mm,
one
okay.
way that students can, if they just don't enjoy the headset experience,
Mm-hmm.
there is an opportunity for you to access the environments and access the assets um, on your computer.
Mm,
The limitations with that are that you're not immersed.
right. Yeah.
Um, so that is where that is.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is that um, with accessibility, I was just having this conversation yesterday, and with accessibility, we have come so far,
Mm,
but we have so far to go.
mm,
And I will say there are so many the populations that we're reaching
mm,
are pretty extensive.
hmm.
And with that, I mean students, especially those that are on the spectrum,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
they really are loving
Hmm.
this immersive environment.
That's awesome to
Be-
hear.
well,
Yeah.
they can go into these places and
Mhm.
their avatar can do things.
Yeah.
They don't have to, it's it's breaking down a barrier for them.
Mhm. Yeah.
And students with social anxiety,
Mm. Mhm.
that like with you know social anxiety is a real thing with kids, with teenagers.
Yes.
But it can be to the point where it can be disabling.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
um, when you get social anxiety disorder, there's actually a new research that I came across. Trying to think, it's Columbia University,
Hmm.
and they are doing social anxiety VR therapy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that was something that was really, rather like, wow,
Yeah.
this is great.
Mhm.
I've seen it. I've heard it from my own, from the students that I work with. I've heard it from the
Mm.
professors that I work with. I work with a lot of professors at a lot of universities because we are the company that's creating the metaversities.
Mhm.
Um, so that's, so I help and I nurture their experience as far as how do I bring in the
Right.
metaverse into my
Mhm.
curriculum? How can I use this as the wonderful and amazing resource that it is?
Mhm.
And basically, I just say it's a huge manipulative
Yeah.
because that's what it is. You can go in
Mhm.
and you can create whatever you want to, wherever you want to,
Mm.
using any of the environments that you want to.
Right.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, we've got assets galore, we've got environments galore, and we're
Mhm.
constantly creating new ones, constantly,
Mm.
because we see that there's a need out there. So,
Right.
anyway, beyond that, as far as accessibility goes, um, those that are on the spectrum really feel like they can be themselves, and they
Mm.
don't have to worry about being judged, which prevents them a lot of times from social interactions, because they might have a tick, or they might have a,
Yeah.
I don't want to lose your eyes, right?
Mm.
You're
Mhm.
looking at an avatar.
Hmm.
So it's a different perspective.
Right.
When
Mhm.
you really have to think about it, but you know, it's just, um,
Well, you can
it's
make
just
your yeah, you can make
a
your body
barrier.
language be the way that you know it should be, and oftentimes, because of the feelings and emotions we have, our body language unfortunately gives way to the people that understand body language better than us on the
Yeah.
spectrum do. Um, and so it does, it removes a lot of those barriers, um, so that you can start on that even relational
On an even
field.
keel. Yes,
Yes.
yes. And I
Mhm.
will say
Yeah.
that accessibility as far as my own field, the deaf and hard of
Mhm.
hearing, I don't think that you know, obviously it has multiple challenges. Virtual
Mm.
reality has multiple challenges. Not all deaf and hard of hearing sign, but I would love to be
Mhm.
able to use sign language in virtual reality.
Oh, yeah.
I would
Yeah.
love to be able to see the body
Mhm.
language of others, because I know
Mhm.
that 80% of communication is
It is
nonverbal.
nonverbal. Mhm. Yes.
So I would love to see more of that. And
Mm.
the great thing about being in this field is that I hear every day of the technological advances that are taking place, and the
Wow.
companies that are striving to
Mm.
make my dreams for the
Mhm.
metaverse a reality.
Wow.
And it's not just me pushing it, because
Mhm.
they don't know me from Adam, but
Right.
um,
Yeah, but
but
there's probably a collective understanding of what
yeah,
needs to happen, to
yes.
make it better, and yes, to
Yeah.
be on that forefront. That's
But
gotta be
the
exciting.
fact that they're alert to it,
Mhm.
the fact that technology and these major companies are alert to this, and they wanna
Yeah.
make it better for
Mm.
people's experiences,
Right.
that says a lot about those companies.
Mhm.
And it doesn't say,
Absolutely.
"Oh, yeah, no, they just wanna make money." Well, think about it.
Right.
Think about how is it really gonna make them a lot of money, or is it
Mm.
just going to make it more accessible?
Hmm.
And I think it's the latter. And I
Right.
think they're doing it because of their humanity,
Mm.
you know, their
Mhm.
human stance. And I
Yeah.
think that the want to make the metaverse the great resource that it is for education
Hmm.
is says a lot about a company as well.
Right. Yeah.
Because everybody sees that there's a need for education to change. But
Yes.
what is anybody doing about it?
Mm. Mhm. Yeah,
You
they're
know,
they're leaving it to the parents.
it's like,
Unfortunately,
okay, all
we've
right,
seen the
well, are they
surge in
leaving it to the
homeschooling. Yes.
exactly, or they're leaving it to the administration, whose hands are
Mhm.
tied by the board of
Right.
directors or the
Yep.
board of education, and
Mhm.
then their hands are tied because of resources,
Right.
and it's just a trickle down theory, and everybody's struggling,
Mhm.
and they're like, "Oh, okay, well, we know what we needs to be done. We
Right.
see what needs to be done. We
Mhm.
understand that we need to change, but one, it costs money. Two, and yes,
Yeah.
VR does cost money, but
Mhm.
your investment is going to last you a little bit longer than
Hmm.
buying a brand new curriculum every year."
Right, because you just buy the technology
Yeah.
and the what you're talking about, the platform behind it, the
Mhm.
objects and the environments are constantly being added. And so that is the thing that it takes the most money and resources to create. That is the
Mhm.
curriculum,
Yeah.
basically.
And our
So,
Victory
yeah.
XR Direct products offer curriculum along with them. So that if you
Mm.
wanted your students to explore biology and they want to dissect a frog or a pig
Mhm.
or a squid, and you don't have to pay for the frog, and you don't have to clean it up, and you don't have to smell
Exactly.
it,
Smell it. Yes,
and
that's
you
what I was
don't
thinking
have
about.
to go, "Ew, this is icky," like, "It's
Uh-huh.
just gross." Um, Okay, you know,
Mhm.
go into VR and dissect a frog.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a holographic teacher there that'll walk you through it. She's the
Wow.
best in her field.
Hmm.
And um, it's just, it's amazing. And then we have another new product, which is Victory XR Labs,
Hmm.
which brings the elements of physics into
Oh,
the
awesome.
metaverse.
Mm.
So being able to interact with things and actually have
Mhm.
them have physics attached to them
Right.
is amazing.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
a lot of our experiments and a lot of our up and coming things, which
Mm.
I can't talk about, but
Right.
a
Yeah.
lot of what we're doing is being directed towards our labs environments because you can
Mm.
incorporate the physics aspect to it. Although I will say that the direct products already have that built in
Mm.
to that as well.
That's
So
awesome. Yeah, so if
yeah,
you're
because
not
you have
understanding,
to
yeah.
actually slice the frog open,
Right.
but there's no
Yes.
blood involved.
Yay. Yeah. So my kids have talked about physics in gaming for a long time, and having a degree in physics. It's always, you see things on movies and you see them like, really, that can't happen,
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
understand, just how motion and, yes, velocity, speed, all that works, and gravity, there's some things that just can't happen.
right.
And so that's what Kathleen is talking about, and it applying, because a lot of times within those virtual environments, we do not see things the way that they would and naturally happen in the world, in the environment, the Earth environment. I guess, we'd have to change gravity if we went to the moon, but
Right.
so, but yeah, that's kind of what all that's about, and so that's amazing, and just to even know that there are so many people collectively, and I know there's probably other companies that, the competition is probably, cropping up all over the place, but that's good because it creates innovation.
Mhm.
When we want to have the best platform, or, um, cater to a specific group of people. And, it sounds like your organization is really, reaching out into that homeschool environment as well. And
Yeah.
I know you had a variety of different things on there. We had one question from one of our viewers, Melissa on Facebook, said, "Do you have a platform for Christian-based homeschooling curriculum?" And her example is like being able to go on to Noah's Ark.
Mm.
That's a great question.
That's a great question. We do not have necessarily Christian based. As far as our platform or our
Hmm.
curriculum, we don't designate
Hmm.
that at all. There are several in the company that are Christians.
Hmm.
um, but I will say that it's a very, I mean, our just to answer that direct question, as far
Hmm.
as having a Noah's Ark, no. We have a ship that you can bring animals onto? Yes,
Hmm. Hmm.
we do.
Yeah.
So basically our what we offer is a platform
Hmm.
for educators of any type to utilize as a resource to bring your students into, to immerse them into their curiosities
Hmm.
and to engage with what it is that they want to understand more about. And you can do that in our different environments. You can go on board a ship
Hmm.
and um, you could go on board, you could go to the Galapagos Islands.
Hmm.
You could
Hmm.
go on board a battleship and pretend that that's Noah's Ark.
Hmm.
What if?
Hmm.
What if a battleship was Noah's Ark?
Hmm.
What if Noah had a battleship? I don't know. But we do have a ship as well.
Yeah.
So yes, and you
Mhm.
would be the one to bring in the animals, and we
Right.
have a slew of
Mhm.
animals. And you could, you replicate them easily. It's
Mhm.
just a click, click. And so it's such an easy platform. I am not
Mm.
a technology savvy
So, yeah,
person.
I was gonna ask you, what, like, give a quick example of a class that you have taught using this environment, just to kinda give the teacher perspective of what you would do when you go in to set things up.
Well, so when I was teaching, my first class that I taught for Victory XR was how to write a 5-paragraph essay.
Hmm.
And people are like, you can't teach writing in virtual reality. You can teach the basics. You can
Hmm.
teach the fundamentals. And how I taught my own children how to write in virtual reality was by teaching them the big method. So
Hmm.
it sounds kind of crazy, but so because I'm a very visual person myself and I'm really big into
Mhm.
theater. And I love acting things out. So, and my
Hmm.
kids were, a lot of my children are the exact same way in that
Mhm.
regards. And so what I did was I went to, um, I held my class in 3 different environments. I held it on Mount
Hmm.
Fuji. I held it on Dinosaur Island, and I held it at the bottom of the ocean floor.
Hmm.
So my first class was going into the ocean,
Mhm.
and I brought in a whole bunch of different animals, and I asked students to put a sticky note at each of the animals that they were interacting with and write one word about that animal, one word.
Hmm.
And then somebody else go behind, and if the sticky note's already there, I want you to add to it. Add
Oh,
either
okay.
another word, an
Hmm.
adjective, an adverb, another description, another verb.
Mhm.
What does that animal do? Or if you want to, if you're comfortable and you want to, go ahead and add a whole sentence.
Hmm.
And just let's work on grammar. Let's work on vocabulary. That's the basics.
Hmm.
That's
Mhm.
the basics, right?
Right.
Language is the written word put on paper.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
that's what writing is.
Hmm.
So let's get comfortable with the concept first.
Right.
Be comfortable with what you're doing, and
Mhm.
then we'll go into it deeper. So then
Yeah.
I brought in a baseball field. I made a
Hmm.
baseball field. I used pieces of square grass that we have,
Hmm.
and I put it all together, and I put the paths in. I brought in the bases,
Mhm.
and I've set everything up, and then I took what's called a snapshot.
Hmm.
And then I can take that snapshot into any other environment. So that's why I was able to take my snapshot of my
Oh,
baseball field
okay.
into onto Mount Fuji and
Okay.
into the Dinosaur Island,
Hmm.
either on the plane there or at in the bottom of the water there.
Hmm.
So I you can take it anywhere. Once you have a
Wow.
snapshot, you can use
Hmm.
it in any environment.
Hmm.
And so I created that snapshot, and so then I have my baseball field, and then I brought in whiteboards, and I had whiteboards at every single base. And then I also
Mm.
brought in my Post-it notes, and I said, "Okay, I have a starting paragraph. Here's my starter. This is
Hmm.
and I said, "Okay, we're teaching at the bottom of the ocean floor. I can't say that this is a hook, right? It
Hmm.
has to be a pitch because hooks don't do well with fish. So this is a pitch. So we're pitching the baseball and we're pitching from home plate and you're pitching from from the pitcher's mound and you
Mhm.
go to home plate. So that's your pitch, right? What's
Mhm.
your idea? What's your big idea here?
Hmm.
Then go to first base. What's your supporting detail? What's your first
Mm.
supporting detail? Then go to second base. What's your second supporting detail?
Hmm.
Write it on the whiteboard, write it on a post-it note,
Right.
bring it in, do whatever. And then go to third base, and then go back to
Mm.
home base, and that's your summary. So now you
Mm.
have your 5-paragraph essay,
Right.
and you can do it in any environment.
Hmm.
And because you do it with snapshots, or you do it,
Yeah.
and the kids are doing it interactively too. So
Mm. Mhm.
writing on
And that just
whiteboards.
adds to the yes, when you got that relational component to that versus them being solitary and feeling like I'm all alone, I've gotta do this task. There's something about being with other
I hate
people
writing.
that yes.
I hate-
That really helps with that. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
thank you for
yeah.
giving us that visual because I think that'll really help. Because a lot of times we've never seen the environment. It's like, well, how do I even go about doing that? And
Well,
so
I
that
do have videos on my YouTube page.
okay.
And it's so I do have that
Mhm.
available. And so you can go to my YouTube page
Okay,
and
and we'll make sure we put a link in our YouTube description, of the video so that you can go
Great.
see Kathleen's videos. I'd like, as we're wrapping up, for you to talk just a little bit about the homeschool packages that Victory XR
Yes.
offers, because I want parents to know what that is. And I'm going to put up your
Yeah.
website again. It's victoryxr.com.
And if you go to victoryxr.com/homeschool, you'll
Mhm.
get my page, which goes
Okay.
into the further descriptions. But
Mhm.
victoryxr.com will give you the basic, and then you can click on, there's also a homeschool link there. So it can get you all the information that you need by going
Mhm.
to that main page that you're posting there.
Yeah.
Um, so the homeschool packages. You can get Victory XR Academy, which is
Mhm.
our magic. It's the synchronous or asynchronous, because students can go in and partake in classes that were already conducted,
Oh, okay.
like the ones that I've taught, the ones that others have taught in our environment. Students can, if you have a Victory XR Academy subscription, you
Mhm.
can go back and go into those recordings in an environment, in
Oh.
headset, and you
Mm.
can learn. You can bring in your own asset of a heart, and you can blow
Mhm.
it up and walk through the chambers, or you can, there's all
Mm.
kinds of different things that our teachers have worked with
Okay.
in these environments.
Hmm.
So um, students can have access to all of those with an academy subscription. But then you also have the Victory XR Direct, which is our asynchronous product. It is holographic teachers, iButtons,
Hmm.
and information voiceovers that come
Okay.
in and help you experience all these different things. Go to Mars, experience
Mm.
physics, um, go on a maze, go, just really be immersed, do all the dissections. And
Mm.
then you have the labs products, which right now we have the civil, um, let's see here, we have civil rights, we have
Mm.
biology, and I know I'm forgetting one, but I know I'm conscious of time too, so I want to get
Yep.
this all in. But I will say that the most exciting thing that we're doing right now, and I'm putting up a video today on
Mm.
this, is that we are offering a meta homeschool opportunity. So if you belong
Mm.
to a cooperative and you want your students to have their social emotional learning skills nurtured,
Mm.
and yet you are home, right?
Right. Uh-huh.
So, but they need to learn, they really need to have kids and peers to interact with
Yes, that
and
interaction.
build off things,
Mhm.
build
Yep.
ideas off of with, and nurture that. So what we're doing is we are offering for homeschoolers, if you have come with us, if you purchase a subscription,
Mhm.
if you purchase a subscription to Victory XR Academy, and then you bring 10 subscribers on with you,
Mm. Mhm.
we will take 10 of our environments and brand them for
Hmm.
your homeschool. So
Very
you
cool.
can own your own homeschool. And
Hmm.
then you can invite other teachers to teach.
Hmm.
You can, and then they just need subscriptions. And
Right.
then you grow your school, and you determine how many kids are going to be allowed in the different classes. You host
Hmm.
classes. It's very easy to do. I mean, if I can
Right.
do it, anybody can do it. And so, I mean, we have university professors that have been teaching for decades that are
Hmm.
now using our product and are
Wow.
saying, this really isn't so bad. I didn't think I
Hmm.
could get through this hurdle. But professional development that we offer for parents and for teachers is
Hmm.
amazing as well.
So you
So,
have some instruction as well.
and it all comes
Yeah.
with the subscription.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, it's so exciting to to be talking about this because I know it's definitely been needed, and it's coming at a perfect time when homeschooling is just starting to explode and families are looking for these different means to help their kids. And with so many kids at home, like you said, that social emotional component, sometimes it's like, well, it's like when we were homeschooling, our kids when they were younger, it's like, and how are they getting social skills?
Oh,
I mean,
please.
we would just go out and about and we'd do so many things. I mean, they were getting more social skills than they needed. um,
Theater, sports,
exactly, all the
you name
activities.
it. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, yeah.
But now we're
My
seeing
kids.
parents are also working from home, and they
Mhm,
don't have as much time to take their kids to all those activities too.
mhm.
And so
Oh,
this
but
is
you can
just,
do theater in virtual reality.
yes, exactly.
And you can be wherever, and see, that's the great thing, you can be wherever you are in the world. If you're in
Hmm.
Ethiopia, and you've got a friend in Siberia, and you've got a friend in New Zealand, and you've got a friend
Right.
in Europe, meet them in headset,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
watch how those
Exactly.
interactions and those relationships mature.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And just
Yeah,
exposing your kids to other cultures and
yes,
people from different backgrounds. It,
yeah,
it it will just, add that much more to their educational experience. I have to
yeah,
completely agree. Well, thank you
yeah.
so much, Kathleen. This has been a just enjoyable conversation, and so much information now to process. And I think our viewers are probably feeling the same way. But thank you all for
Anybody can
joining
reach
us.
out
And
to me,
yes,
so I'm
yes, and we'll
happy to
make
talk.
sure we put Kathleen's information and Victory XR's information on the YouTube description. So if you want to connect with her, it'll be just easy as a click of a link. And thank you for all that you're doing, and just your willingness to put yourself in an environment that was very not what you've done in the past, but being willing
Yeah,
to be out there and represent homeschoolers in that. So thank you so much for that, and to just add your educational background to be able to help with the formation and cultivation of that environment. That's so important. So yes, we're
I'm happy
excited to
to
see
do
where
so.
that's going to go. Yeah. And
Thank
thank
you.
you all, yeah, for joining us on this broadcast. This has been an amazing month talking about technology, and we hope that you have enjoyed it as much as we have. We've also had blogs written on our website all about tech. One will come out tomorrow with the SPED Homeschool team's top picks. So that'll have a lot of great resources there for you. And so just know that we at SPED Homeschool, we are a 501c3 nonprofit. And so if you would like to continue supporting our work or support our work as a donor, you can visit our website at spedhomeschool.com and click donate. And we would appreciate that. That's what keeps us having the ability to do these broadcasts and to continue updating our website, reaching out to new resources like Kathleen. I interview people like her all day long, and that's, if you wonder what I do, not on Tuesdays, that's what I'm doing. So just creating those connections for you and finding resources, and that's what we list on our website. So definitely look at those resources. They are extremely useful for your home education, and continue watching this broadcast, listening to the podcasts, and being part of our community. So thanks again, Kathleen. We appreciate just your willingness to come on and share, and just talk about this new technology. It's so exciting.
Yeah.
It's so very
Thank
exciting.
you. Thank you, Peggy, for having me, and thank you for all that you do in support
Oh,
of
you're
special needs.
welcome.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we've wrapped up now this month of October. Next week, we are going to dive into our November topic, which is unit studies. Kathleen talked a little bit about unit studies, but we're going to talk about holiday unit studies and how to create your own. And next week, specifically, we're going to talk about how to create a unit study for the holidays based on your family traditions. If you already do them, why not make them school?
Yeah.
So that's
Make
what
them
we're
in the
gonna.
metaverse.
Yeah, exactly. Get your Christmas tree up and yeah. So your cookies won't get made that way though, if they're only virtual.
We're working on that.
Yes. Yeah, if I could make them in the metaverse and have them shipped to my house, that okay. My brain's going. So anyways, but that's where we're headed next week. So anyways, yeah, this has been Empowering Homeschool Conversations, and it has been provided by SPED Homeschool. Make sure you go to our website at spedhomeschool.com to get resources and support for teaching your unique learner. And we'll see you again here next week. So have a great week, everybody. Goodbye and God bless.
Bye.